just open up for questions for Coach Collins.
Nothing like snow on the exhibition open read, right?
Yeah, waking up this morning and seeing some snow flurries, it confirmed that it's basketball season. So we're excited to get going. You know, the preseason's great. You have a lot to work on. Certainly have a lot of new guys. It was very beneficial for us to have that time, but you got to go out there now and see what you got. You got to start playing against other people, see what you're good at, see what you need work on, and you know, I know our guys are looking forward to not playing against each other like they've been banging on each other for the last 6 weeks. So it'll be excited to get back on the Welsh Ryan floor tomorrow night.
Everybody healthy as of right now?
Not necessarily, no. We've nothing major, which is good, but we'll be down a couple guys tomorrow. Nick Martinelli's still coming back off a little bit of an injury. He'll be out, and a couple of our freshmen, unfortunately, Jordan Clayton and Parker Strauss, a couple of our young guards. So, you know, with a sophomore and two freshmen, it's disappointing not to have them out there because they need to play, you know, and especially these exhibition games, get out and get some time. But we're hopeful that this is nothing long term, and both those guys, all three of those guys, will be ready to go here shortly.
Do you think by the home opener?
Hope so. Okay. Hopeful. We're hopeful. So day by day, but definitely hopeful that they'll be back for Monday.
When you mix in this new group, some of the transfers with Boo and the returning players here, you mentioned kind of having time on the floor this summer. What were the things that you really wanted to hammer home and focus to try to bring these guys together?
Well, I think you have to reestablish your habits. I think the one thing is, just because maybe you were really good defensively last year or did things well, it doesn't just occur by osmosis because you're the same guy. You got to reestablish those things, reestablish our principles, what we're good at, and then just build new camaraderie. I mean, the guys who are returning are different players because hopefully they're better than they've been, and now we have 6 new faces, 3 transfers, 3 freshmen coming in. How do we integrate them into what we're doing and how we're doing things? So I think the off season is super important, to build a new team. Every year is different. It's a new journey, a new mission. Thankful to have some vets. I mean, certainly to have guys like Boo and Ty and Matt and certainly Brooks, those 4 guys who played a huge role in last year's team. To have their leadership back has been huge, but I think they all understand we kind of had to start over, and reestablish things, and now we begin our new journey tomorrow.
I know, Coach, you were kind of talking about defense there, but you lose a guy like Chase to the NBA. How do you guys fill that void and kind of stay as strong as you were on the defensive side of the ball this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, no one is going to be able to do what Chase did in terms of his, ability to get steals, his activity, the deflections, being able to play some of the better guys one-on-one. But we hope that our scheme, is in place. We're going to stay pretty true to, what we've started to build, and we feel like we just have to be a really good team defensive unit. You don't have that one guy that's maybe going to stand out with the amount of steals and lockdown ability, but we think we have the personnel to still be able to do some things defensively and still have a similar impact, even though we're going to miss what he brought to that side of the ball.
Are there things you learned or took from the experience of making the dance in 2017 and then not being able to replicate that success the next year that you hope to incorporate this year? I know there's obviously extenuating circumstances, not playing in this building back then, but things that you can look and say, hey, I want to change some things to hopefully replicate.
No, I mean, I think for sure. I mean, I was a young coach, at that point, going through it kind of for the first time, figuring it out as we're going along. Now 6 years later, hopefully.
You're old?
I'm old. I'm definitely old. I'm 6 years older and grayer. Have to wear reading glasses now, so all those things are now different than 2017. But yeah, I think your experiences you learn, and I take a lot of responsibility for not helping that next year's team, regardless of not playing at home or anything. As a coach, you do put that on yourself. Things I could have done to be a better leader for that group, or to avoid some of the pitfalls that we kind of went through. So every team is different. It's a whole new group. None of the players are the same, but I think going through those times now and coming into the summer and kind of hopefully keeping that mentality the way we did and not taking our foot off the gas pedal in any way. I mean, we still have a lot more we want to accomplish. we still got a lot of hungry guys. We have guys that want to prove themselves as players, and we still feel we have a lot to prove as a program. So we have to carry out that mindset if we want to have any chance of being successful.
Coach, you guys played a scrimmage, I believe, last week. Without delving into too many of the details, that was a little cryptic, the scrimmage. What would you say you've learned about your team from that experience?
Yeah, I was really pleased. I mean, we were down a few guys, which hurt our depth a little bit. That was unfortunate, not kind of having our whole group, but just to get out there, and I think when you play other people, you get an idea of kind of where you're at, good and bad. I mean, we're a work in progress. It's October 31st, and we have a long way to go, but there were a lot of positive signs with how we played. I like how connected we are. I think the chemistry is in a really good place. I see the connection, I see the camaraderie, I see how we're sharing the ball. But yet you watch the film and you realize it's still October, and there's a lot of things, and we got to get healthier. We got to get, especially a guy like Nick, who's so important to what we're doing. Getting him back in the fold is gonna make a big difference as well.
Coach, as an experienced head coach, you've taken pride in kind of stepping over into the administrative and design side. You've talked about how you impacted here. How do some of the early games, like an exhibition against McKendree or Binghamton to open the season, how do those come about, and do you play any role in helping set those games up? Yeah,
I mean, scheduling is a crazy puzzle to try to put together. You have the opportunities to do two kind of preseason events. You can do a scrimmage, you can do a charity game, you can do an exhibition game. We've kind of chosen, I think there's value in playing in front of a crowd, kind of putting that uniform on, which we'll get tomorrow night. It's different than just, being in a closed gym, practicing. I do think there's value, though, in those scrimmage situations to work on different things. It's not about just who wins or loses. Do you work on different situations? Do you play around with some lineups, put some guys together, try to see some things? And then the non-conference schedule is, you try to figure out what kind of team are you going to have. The goal is to always put yourself in a position that if you play well, you want to be in the mix to be a postseason team, right? And we have 20 league games, which is a monster slate, as we all know. And we feel in our non-league, we try to balance it out with, obviously, you got finals week, you got the Christmas holiday break, you got some certain things that tend to be distractions at time. How do you get the right games in the right place and put the schedule together in a place where you have a resume that if you get in a conference that you feel like you have a chance to get to the postseason. So that's kind of how we go about things.
Is there anything specific about either of those two programs that stood out to you in the process, or is it just, like you said, they're the pieces that fit into the puzzle?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both. In terms of McKendree, I think we've always tried to play the in-state Division II teams. Those are the you have to play a non-D1. If you want to have an exhibition, and we've always kind of rotated around with some of the in-state programs. It's an opportunity for them and a good opportunity for us. It's a good league. McKendree went to the tournament last year. We saw that was a big reason of wanting to play them. They have their best couple players back. They won a couple games in the NCAA tournament, Division II. So we feel it's going to be a formidable opponent, to give us a really good look heading into the year. When it comes to some of the non-league games, a lot of it has to do with availability with teams, what teams are looking for. You've seen in the past, some guys have players from the Chicagoland area, so sometimes those schools will reach out to us, seeing if, we'd be willing to play because they want to bring a guy home, things of that nature. So I've known Binghamton's coach for a long time. I actually got started way back in the early years. My first job was at Seton Hall, and their coach, Lavelle Sanders, was a great player there. And I didn't coach him, but I've known him very well, and obviously had a great deal of respect for him. So that was part of the reason kind of that game came about. Plus, we always want to have the PTI, pardon the interruption, debate. It makes for good TV, Wilbon versus Kornheiser. So when you get the alums of both schools to argue about it a little bit on camera next week, that's always a good thing.
Coach, at this time last year, there was very few external expectations for your program. How do you kind of level this year? Students are expecting, you know, a return to March Madness. What's the mindset in the locker room when you do have more expectations?
Yeah, I think you have to just stay the course with an even keel. I mean, just like we said to the guys last year, don't listen to the noise of negativity. It was mostly negative voices. And we said, don't listen to those. Like, let's focus on what we have in the locker room. The same can be said when there's positive things. I mean, because that can soften you up. You know, I mean, everyone likes to hear positive things. I mean, who wants to hear negative things about them? Like, you want to hear positive comments. You want people to praise you for a good job and things of that nature. But in this instance, you got to eliminate that noise as well. You know, and that's kind of my message always to the guys is it's never really as good as it's made out to be, and it's never really as bad as it is either. And you got to keep an even keel, and you got to stay hungry and determined. And we just got to focus on what's being said in our locker room and not what the outside noise is.
And are there any players in particular, you know, throughout this preseason practice process that you've been particularly impressed with that you feel like have grown a lot since last year?
Yeah, I mean, all of the returners I've been really proud of. They had all had good off seasons. You know, I think they're all better players, but more importantly, just more seasoned leaders. You know, now that they've had a chance to have some success and they've seen what it takes, that helps. You know, and especially in those four guys that, you know, you're talking about four guys who played a major role, you know, with Boo, Matt, Ty, and Brooks. You know, and all four of those guys are key leaders for us, and we're really leaning on those guys to help lead the way as we develop this new team.
Coach, what went into kind of going back to the non-conference? What went into the decision to schedule a home with Dayton and then also schedule a standalone with Arizona State?
Yeah, I mean, losing our challenges. You know, that was a big, you know, we've now had the ACC. You knew every year you kind of were going to have a road or home ACC game, you know, so you lose that challenge, and then we weren't in the Gavitt games this year. So we wanted to make sure we had two high-level games. So we'll have Dayton come here. Obviously, we'll return that game the following year. Arizona State game will be a really high-level neutral site game in Phoenix. I think Alabama's playing Arizona in the other game. You have four teams that all played in the NCAA tournament, two local teams, you know, the Arizona and Arizona State. We just thought that was a great opportunity for our team heading into Christmas. You know, right before Christmas, it'll be our last game. You kind of set up a high-level game before you jump back into conference play after the Christmas holiday.
Coach, go ahead, Matt. You're good.
Duke was able to just get a commitment from Cooper Flagg, #1 recruit in the country. Do you have any relationship with Coach Shire with the GBN to the pipeline, then coaching him there, and then also from a recruiting perspective for you guys, do you feel that you guys are able to set your sights a bit higher now in your scouting process after a tournament event?
Well, Coach Shire and I have a good relationship. You know, I like to tell him he's the second best player ever at Glenbrook North High School. But yeah, I mean, I'm super proud of him and everything he's accomplished. I view him in a lot of respects like a little brother. You know, he's I think 10 or 12 years younger than I am, but I actually knew him when he was a 5-year-old kid. You know, his parents I knew, and they used to bring him to my high school games, and we developed a relationship as he got into middle school and was shown to be a really good player even before we recruited him. And then to be able to recruit him and then coach him for 4 years and win a national championship together, that was pretty awesome. So I'd say we're pretty close. He might beg differently, but I'll claim that we're pretty close. He doesn't listen to me as much as he used to. He's big time now, but yeah, I mean, in terms of us for recruiting, I think the thing that, you know, I really don't get in too much to stars and ratings and all those kind of things. I think the thing that we really have to focus on we have to stay true to the guys that fit our program. You know, the mentality of those guys. You know, we've been able to get a lot of guys throughout the years. Maybe some were touted, some weren't. I mean, you look at a guy like Boo. He had no high Division I offers. Now he's a preseason All-American. You know, so it goes both ways. I mean, it's about us finding the right guys, you know, that fit us. You know, not only for basketball, but fit our team, fit our character of what we stand for, how we want to play. But certainly when you win and show that, you know, the atmospheres that we have now, it's really helped having, you know, less of a sell to get kids excited about us. I think, you know, they're seeing that this is an opportunity to come to a place where you can get the best of both worlds, you know, on the court and off the court, and still have a chance to be really competitive in one of the best leagues in the country.
Coach,
Ty, you said multiple times last year that you felt Ty's shot fell flat, almost look at the rim throughout the season. What have you seen this offseason, and especially these last 6 weeks through camp, that make you believe he can get back to where he was in 2021, 2022?
Yeah, I mean, he's shot the ball really well. You know, and certainly getting a little bit more arc on his shot was something he and I talked about. And a lot of it is just confidence too, right? I mean, he had a year where he didn't shoot it as well. What I was proud of him was he did the other things exceptionally well. He guarded. He was really one of our best defensive rebounders. He was better with the ball. You know, he just didn't have a great shooting year, and still, I think, averaged about 9 a game. You know, imagine, to me now, instead of shooting 29%, if we could get him to the high 30s, you know, that 9 a game is going to go to 12, 13, you know, 14, you know, and we certainly think he's an X factor. I mean, he's a guy that I don't think's nearly talked about as much. You know, rightfully so. I mean, Chase and Boo were so good last year, but I think you've seen when he plays well, we become, you know, a very difficult team to play against. So, you know, hopefully the consistency part. He's a senior now. He's been a starter. You know, he knows he's one of the guys that we need night in and night out, and I'm expecting him to have a very good year.
Coach, you are entering year 11, and all 10 of those previous years you've had Coach James with you on the sideline.
Yeah, right.
Just going into, you know, the next decade of here in school, what does that mean to have him there, and what does it mean to the program, especially last year?
Yeah, I mean, Coach James he's part of my family. I mean, he was my high school coach, and you know, when I first got here, he was the first person I wanted to hire for all the reasons you said. First and foremost, you know, the relationship with he and I, he helped teach me the game. He helped, you know, show me what it took to become a good player, but also his knowledge. I mean, 18 years as an NBA assistant, long time Hall of Fame level coach at high school, you know, to have him by my side for these 10 years. He probably doesn't really, I tell him, but how much I lean on his advice. He's got great insights. He's been around forever. Plus, I know he has my back. You know, I mean, he literally, I think he said, either with me or my dad, he's been with the Collins for over 20 years, you know, of coaching, which is pretty awesome. And he just brings a lot. The guys, he's got a great demeanor. The players love him. Even though he's older in terms of his experience and age, he's young at heart. He's got a great enthusiasm to him, and we're lucky to have him. You know, he brings a lot to our program, not only to me, but to the other coaches as well. He's a great mentor. We have young coaches on the rise on this staff. I mean, both, you know, everyone knows how great Coach Lowry is, but I mean, both BMAC and Taylor, you know, have stardom in their future in this, and they're young, they're learning. So to have a guy like Coach James to be able to help mentor those guys as well is huge for their development too.
Coach, as you mentioned, you're kind of work in progress. As you get further into the season, understand more of your roster and its strengths, how would you say you're kind of balancing the size aspect, rather, of your team playing 4 guards versus having multiple big men on the floor to stop a guy like Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, if you really look at it, when Brooks emerged, you know, we played that lineup a lot. You know, we'll miss Robbie's size and length and everything he brought. There's no question about it. But, you know, that's where a guy like Nick, you know, we're counting on his development to kind of step up. He's got really good size. You know, I think there'll be times, I mean, when you have Nick and Brooks out there together, you know, with a guy like Matt, I mean, that's 6'7", 6'6", 7'1". You know, so it's not like we're going to be small the whole game. I would tell you, though, if you look last year, I mean, when we got down to the end of the year, you saw a lot where it was Boo and Chase and Ty and Brooks. You know, those 4 guys played together with Matt or Titus. So it's a lineup we're comfortable with. You know, I think because we're very aggressive with our post coverages, you know, so we try to eliminate a lot of teams just playing bully ball in the post and backing down. We try to get that with the post trapping scheme. So, and we feel like it can create more spacing and mismatches. I mean, Brooks, to me, is a very difficult matchup because of his size and strength, but ability to make plays off the dribble. So, you know, at the end of the day, you got to put your best players on the floor. You know, I mean, that's kind of how it goes. You know, there's less about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, you got to get your best guys out there, and you got to figure out how to be successful with those guys.
Coach, obviously you played a major part in building this new arena when you got here. Now with a new Ryan Field up, what do you think that would do to the development further of Northwestern athletics?
Oh, it'd be awesome. I mean, I think it'd be great. I'm not looking forward to the construction, you know, because we're right next door. But man, seeing some of the specs and the plans for it, and you know what it can bring, just that kind of environment, not only for football but other things. I know they've talked about playing some other sports in there, having some different things for the community. I think it only enhances kind of where we're at over here. You know, I think it's great. I can't wait for that to be completed. Although I'm not going to be happy when all the cranes and everything are out. Hopefully they don't take my parking spot, but they still give me a place to park, so I don't have to walk too far. I'm an old man now. I got to still be able to get to the office. Awesome, guys. Thank you, guys. Yep. Thank you.